So my journey began right here down by the docks in beautiful, beautiful Hong Kong, where the weather is always fine. And you see those two people on the security camera feed? Well, one of them is me. And the other guy? That's Indian Scarface. But you can call us Harold and Kumar 2.0. Anyway, we decided to meet up with this upstanding citizen over here to sell him a briefcase full of the finest crack cocainist that the world has ever seen. It's really, really good stuff. 80% chalk, 20% baking powder, 0% crack, super pure, and comes without all the negative side effects. This security guard wasn't too bright though and decided to confront three ultra suspicious guys holding meat cleavers and snorting white powder from a briefcase in the middle of a typhoon down by the docks in the shadows. Now, he did lose an ear, and almost in everything else, but fortunately the FBI turned up just in time and scared the crap out of everyone, forcing us all to chuck a massive runner. Now, unfortunately, Kumar was pretty crap at parkour and got himself arrested almost instantly, but me, basically being a Chinese ninja, launched myself through windows, up walls, and off balconies with the greatest of ease. I also made a couple of super quick appearances at a couple of house parties that were going off, bro. And then I went through a dead-end door that led me right into the hands of the police. I was surrounded and resistance was futile. This could only mean one thing. I was soon going to be in prison dropping the soap at least a dozen times every single day for the rest of my life. Astonishingly, as I gazed out around my jail cell and at how happy everyone else in there looked, I thought to myself, maybe dropping the soap isn't as bad as the movies make it out to be. It was just then that I noticed the skinny bloke getting macked on by a bunch of horny thugs and realized that it was in fact my long-lost childhood friend, Jimmy Cheru. Now, Jimmy and I went way back. As a matter of fact, we used to be members of the same karate dojo, Miyagi-Do, trained under the guidance of a little Japanese man once known as Mr. Miyagi. We reminisced about the old days and how those pesky bastards from Cobra Kai were always causing trouble back in the valley. The good old days, simpler times, and truth be told, even now as a grown man, I desperately longed to return to the fold, battling rival karate dojos and saving the town from the likes of John Kreese and Terry Silver. But just as we started to make plans to create a new dojo, Jimmy's mum came to pick him up from jail to take him to his violin lessons. And as for me, well, I very shortly after found myself cuffed to a metal chair being drilled by a couple of detectives in the interrogation room. The plot twist, however, was that I was a secret undercover detective and my mission to infiltrate the ranks of all the rival karate dojos in town and take them down one by one. Now, I know what you're thinking. If that really is my goal, then why was I selling a briefcase full of crack at the start of the video? And the answer to that is because crack is worth a lot of money. After leaving the precinct, I headed straight back out to the streets to meet up with Jimmy. You see, Jimmy was apparently now a member of Cobra Kai, and he had no idea that I was working for the Popo. He also didn't know that I was secretly scheming to bring back Miyagi-Do, take over the valley, and win the Sekai Taikai. I felt like I could use this to my advantage. But first, I had to excuse myself from following Jimmy momentarily to head into the kitchen of a nearby restaurant and terrorize the people working inside of it. After all, I was new in town and I needed to make my mark. And what better way to make your mark than by stealing the cook's frying pan repeatedly and then killing him with it. After rejoining Jimmy, we headed to the local massage parlor to relieve the built-up tension that had accumulated during our time in the Slammer. And much to our surprise, the very same people we were in the Slammer with were now working at the massage parlor. We didn't really want a massage anymore, but one thing I did know was that it was now time to unleash the dragon. Unfortunately, however, it seemed like I was still a little bit rusty, and no matter how hard I tried to unleash my dragon in front of everybody, I just couldn't get it out. I did, however, have an unusually keen penchant for grabbing people and slamming their heads into breakable objects that just so happened to be spread around the room. I also snuck in a little bit of cardio too, just for the hell of it. But before leaving, the massage parlor lady said that we had to either pay her for all the damage we caused in her shop or we had to work it off. And seeing as we had no money, yeah, it was a pretty rough afternoon. Rumor had it, however, that the first point of entry to infiltrating Cobra Kai was befriending the people at the local Chinese restaurant. And besides, who doesn't love a nice succulent Chinese meal.
Why did you do this to me? Pop in the car. Get some cups. For what reason? What is the charge? Eating a meal? A succulent Chinese meal?
Everyone was really welcoming, and despite their scary tattoos and immense number of gold chains, they seemed like nice young men. I was also remarkably impressed at the cleanliness and level of general hygiene on display in the kitchen, except for the ginormous dead pig that was hanging from the ceiling and bleeding all over the floor. Everyone was also unusually jacked, but I figured it was probably just the hormones in the chicken. And whilst they were all very nice to me, there was no way they were going to invite me to participate in a free introductory lesson at their dojo unless I impressed them with my skills. I was kicking some serious asshole. That is until the restaurant owner came outside and told us to stop stuffing around and that there were several Uber Eats and menu log orders that needed delivering. Later that afternoon, as I was walking through the markets, kindly requesting that everyone give me money as it would protect them from their stalls accidentally catching on fire, a delightful lady called me over and insisted very strongly that I buy her wares. Now, I don't know why she thought I needed a bra and a handbag, but she looked like she knew what she was talking about. So I bought all of them and put them on all at once under my jacket. And then went and bought a kebab and was immediately inspired to do parkour over every food tray in the vendor's stall, knocking everything onto the floor and completely ruining his day. It was then, however, that I noticed a shady-looking fellow handing out Cobra Kai pamphlets to young people around the marketplace. I immediately knew what I had to do. Chase the man down and kick his ass Miyagi-Do style. He was a sensei and had some of his students with him, so I dealt with all of the students that were in the vicinity and told him that from now on there'd only be one karate dojo in Hong Kong, and that dojo was called Miyagi-Do. But then the police turned up again and ruined everything. I swear they had some kind of secret agenda against me informing the people of Hong Kong about the new big boy dojo in town. Miyagi-Do haters. The next morning, I left my apartment in my shoes and underpants and headed outside. I noticed that the right side of my apartment complex's tiling was looking a little bit scuffed, so I used the old man next to me to give it a bit of a buff, then hopped on my sick ride and proceeded to commit every single traffic violation ever written in every part of the world in human history. When I got back to the Chinese restaurant, however, the owner told me that there was a rival karate dojo called Miyagi-Do driving a bus around town telling people not to join Cobra Kai. Obviously, that bus was mine and I was the driver. But as an undercover operative, it was imperative that I didn't blow my cover. It was now nighttime and starting to get a little bit chilly, so I decided that it might be time to put on some clothes. I thought that it might be cool to dress up as the main character from One Piece, using some of the random pea-stained clothing scattered all over the public toilet floor. With me now looking so fly, I had the confidence to approach the nice Korean man sitting on the couch that told me I had to go and prove my karate abilities by fly-kicking a random bystander in the face before he'd sell me some drugs. Naturally, I obliged and kicked the cigarette right out of some guy's mouth. And with that done, the nice Korean man gave me a nice brick of crack cocainus. Unfortunately though, the police were watching and they came out of nowhere and then just crash tackled me in the middle of the basketball court. It really hurt. But I used my jiu-jitsu scrambles to get out of the rear missionary position and cuff the policeman with his own cuffs. I then escaped and borrowed the nice policeman's car so I could make my way downtown, driving fast, faces passing as I was homebound. Then I saw this guy again and he looked absolutely miserable. So I gave it to him because I thought he needed it more than me. Having just given away my ginormous brick of crack so generously, I felt like I deserved to reward myself. And there was a very fancy clothing shop in the corner of the marketplace that I'd never seen before. Looking through the old man's wares, there were endless fabulous outfits that all piqued my interest, from gangsters to legendary mythological heroes to George St. Pierre's from frickin' UFC. I don't know why he's here. But there was one outfit in particular that really caught my eye. I couldn't quite put my finger on it, but it was extremely sus, and I liked it. A simple outfit consisting of a black suit jacket and pants, black gloves, black shoes, and a nice red tie with a silver clip on it. Finished off with a head condom to give the illusion that my head was a penis. The outfit also supposedly reduced attention from the police, which hopefully meant that I could continue doing outrageous things without anybody bothering me or asking me any questions. It also included a 100% genuine made in China silver baller. And I'm very glad to report that after some brief experimentation, it appeared that the thing about reduced police attention was in fact true. Anyway, now that I was the perfect man and women found me simply irresistible, I constantly found myself getting hit on by foreign women asking me for sexy time. This one, however, also wanted to learn karate, and so I invited her to the secret Miyagi-Do dojo we had running in a back alley somewhere that hardly anybody knew about.
Okay, yeah, that'd be really great.
I thought I'd give her an apartment tour first, so we hopped on my bike and drove straight into my building, and then this happened. I don't know what it is, don't ask any questions, but yep, happened. And then finally, after arriving at the secret Miyagi-Do dojo, Sensei LaRusso came over and tried to steal my girl, which was totally uncool. So the only thing that made sense at this point was to take off my hitman outfit, put on something a little more casual, and kill everyone in the dojo. I was in love and feeling on top of the world, so I popped a sick wheelie on my motorbike and... Ow! Feeling a bit roughed up and sore after the motorbike accident I was just involved in, I decided to head to the local physiotherapist for some treatment.
Hey baby, looking to blow off a little steam?
Sure, why not?
Let's see if we can make you feel better all over.
And once I was fully treated, I returned to the Chinese restaurant as I was feeling quite hungry and felt like a nice succulent Chinese meal. But the owner told me that it was karaoke o'clock and to get my ass down to the local karaoke bar ASAP. It was all good though because I love singing and I love women. So I picked up a woman and took her into the karaoke booth so I could belt out a tune for her and her girlfriends. They absolutely loved it. But before leaving, I headed upstairs to speak to the karaoke bar owner who allegedly had been supporting the local Cobra Kai dojo by buying them uniforms and punching bags. He said he was too busy to talk, so I cracked out the old Miyagi-Do and showed them what I was capable of, which largely consisted of putting people's heads through ginormous speakers, smashing people's faces into tables, and launching them through glass aquariums, killing all the fish in the process. Oh yeah, and there was also lots of this too. Lots and lots and lots of this. I then roundhouse kicked the guy right in the face, but told him to get up because he had a nice yellow jacket on and there was probably pee all over the public toilet floor. We then complimented each other on our shiny bald heads and we each went our separate ways. When I got back to the restaurant, however, the usually very friendly and non-threatening kitchen staff seemed unusually angry and I had no idea why. They just kept yelling, "Traitor!" And I thought for a second my cover as a secret undercover Miyagi-Do master was blown, but I cleverly managed to convince them that the Miyagi guy was actually the other bald dude, eh? Later that night, I woke up in a cold sweat, my fingers looking particularly more munted than usual. I guess the events of the day had really spooked me. Was spreading the way of Miyagi-Do really worth all this bloodshed? I didn't know. So I went back to the physiotherapist.
Hey dear, looking to treat yourself? I can give you more than you can imagine.
I mean, who could resist you?
You don't mind if I call you Daddy, do you, Daddy?
I figured that moving out of my studio apartment into a fancy hotel would almost certainly stop me from having those bad dreams. And it also gave me the opportunity to launch my new neighbors off the balcony. Back at the Chinese restaurant, the restaurant owner's mama kindly asked me to take her son's soon-to-be wife out and about to do some errands around town in preparation for their wedding, which was later that week. Now, the first order of business was to drive her to the bridal shop whilst not doing anything to destroy her good mood. Unfortunately, however, she didn't take particularly kindly to me launching myself out into the air through the car windshield. But finally we picked up the wedding dress, which looked just like you'd imagine a wedding dress would look, and I myself headed to the local tailor to change into something a little less intimidating and turn my penis head back into a head. Now, I'm not gonna lie, I did feel kind of uncomfortable having hair on my head again, and I couldn't help but feel like this nice white suit I just bought was soon going to be a nice red one. But at least for the time being, everything was peaceful and the wedding was going well. Everyone was happy, smiling, and for the moment, I almost forgot that they were all members of my rival karate dojo. As per the bride and groom's request, I headed out back to pick up some wine from the booze van when I suddenly heard some bang bang pew pew going on from the inside of the wedding hall. Now, I couldn't quite figure out whether this was all part of the ceremony or not, but I didn't take kindly to people pointing a gun at my face. Nor did I like it when people killed me and my head got stuck in the table. Unfortunately, however, it looked like I was a little bit too late. As I looked at my good friend, the succulent Chinese restaurant owner, and his bride-to-be slumped over dead on the ground, I had an epiphany. Maybe there was enough room in Hong Kong for more than one style of karate after all. Maybe it was possible for Miyagi-Do and Cobra Kai to exist simultaneously. But one thing I knew for sure was that this wasn't the work of a karate dojo. This massacre had Taekwondo written all over it. And judging by the sounds coming from the adjacent room, the Taekwondo bros were hard at work shooting everything up, including Sensei Lawrence. Sensei was in bad shape, but under my protection, I assured him that he probably wouldn't take any more bullets for the day, but that there were also no guarantees. I dropped him off at the hospital and told the nurse that I knew a good physiotherapist that could fix him right up, and gave her the physio's number and headed out to deal with those pesky Taekwondo bros. Now, the restaurant owner's mama was pretty angry because her son was killed, and in the worst way possible. She gave me a book that had Taekwondo revenge decks written on the front of it and told me to get out there and catch them all. For every bad Taekwondo guy involved in the events of the day that I brought back to her, she would give me a reward. First, I captured and delivered this guy, and she seemed really happy to about that. And then I delivered this guy and she seemed even happier. But I decided that whatever the reward was, I probably didn't want it. So I ran away. And again, it's always a good idea to look left and then right when crossing the road. Back at the hospital, however, it seemed that Sensei Johnny Lawrence had recovered, slightly at least. And every leader of Cobra Kai, including each of its offshoot brother and sister dojos, came to discuss who would now lead Cobra Kai in Sensei Johnny's temporary absence. It was decided that the guy in the purple shirt would take over, as he was literally 3 times the size of everyone else, and therefore probably 3 times the leader. And then I met a couple of honeys on my way back to the hood. It looked like they'd just finished shopping, and I offered to drive them back home. The one in pink was a bit weird and kept asking me how fast my car could go and what kind of petrol I put in it. So I took them for a spin, and despite literally totaling my car inside out, they seemed to have a really good time. Later that evening, I went to meet up with one of the Cobra Kai masters, who seemed concerned about the way that the big man in the purple shirt was handling things. Apparently, he was very superstitious, and if somebody just so happened to break into his house at night and smash all his he might think it was a ghost and resign from the position or something. So I picked my way through the front door lock and let myself in. And then once in, I ran around like an absolute maniac, completely shattering everything that was shatterable and messing up all his junk to disrupt the flow of feng shui inside his house. I even moved the piano and set the clock to 4:44 just to stress him out even more. And let me tell you, when he got inside and saw the floating chair, well, yeah, it was definitely worth every moment. Unfortunately, the next morning, however, we were informed that Sensei Johnny Lawrence had passed away in his sleep due to complications. And so it was time to decide who would now be leading Cobra Kai, not in a temporary capacity, but permanently. It was just then like clockwork that the Taekwondo guys rocked up, causing all kinds of trouble, which was completely unacceptable given the fact that this was a funeral, which unironically also turned out to be their funerals too, because for some reason, I was packing a grenade launcher. Boom, boom, mother. The next day I got a phone call from Jimmy, who was also called Jackie, and he didn't say anything, but he was like, going drip, drip. And as I slowly walked around the corner and saw him hanging from a meat hook with his guts hanging out, I knew where the dripping sound was coming from, and I knew where the nightmares I'd be having for the rest of my life would be coming from too. Shortly after that, I got whacked in the head, which I couldn't exactly show because there was just way too many guts hanging out and I didn't want to get demonetized. But when I finally came to, I was tied up in an abandoned building, and a man who was undoubtedly a high-ranking Taekwondo bro did some, torture stuff to me, bro. It was horrible. Cut my nipple. He told me that the leader of the FBI was actually a dirty cop, and he'd completely blown my cover, revealing to every dojo in Hong Kong about the fact that I worked with the police and that I was a Miyagi-Do master. It was all too much to take in, and so I passed out. Not from my shattered feet that he smashed with a hammer, or the numerous lacerations I had on my chest from his scalpel, or the ginormous hole in my knee that he'd been drilling into, but from the fact that the FBI guy turned out to be a massive, smelly dickhole. After regaining consciousness sometime later, I clambered along the floor to try and reach the circular saw that was stupidly left there, ripe for the taking. I very cleverly set myself free and did some electrical cable fiber wire stuff that the real Agent 47 would have been proud of. I also did some pretty cool toilet stuff as well. Check this out. He drank it all, bro. Okay, fine, he left a little bit in the bottom, but hey, judging by the color of his piss, he was probably about to die from kidney failure anyway. I still couldn't leave, however, until I made sure that everybody in the building knew just how mad I was, which I did, repeatedly, over and over again, in the worst ways possible. And then I headed into the sauna to let off a little more steam. No pun intended. Just as I was getting to leave, though, Taekwondo guy came into the sauna with a briefcase, which he opened and then took out a ginormous machete. And I had a ginormous idea. Exhausted, I collapsed on the floor, but not before stealing his phone, as he looked like a rich kind of guy and probably had a good one. On his phone, I saw a text message that said, "Come to the other succulent Chinese restaurant after dealing with me," but seeing as I dealt with him, I thought I'd go there instead.
I don't want to die! Take cover, everyone! Get down!
As soon as I got there, though, I realized that Terry Silver, the very same guy that was demanding the new leadership role at Cobra Kai, was also the leader of Taekwondo Bros. I kicked the door down, ready for the final showdown between me and Terry Silver, and then I got my bloody arm blown off with a shotgun. It was rather painful. Then, launching himself off the balcony, he tried to get away in his speedboat, but I was clearly faster than a speedboat and hurled myself off the jetty and onto his boat. He tried to shake me, but he just couldn't, and finally decided to crash the entire thing into a floating gas station instead. Boom, boom, mother. So I tossed him into the ice chipper. And just like that, it was finally all over. A deep undercover job that seemed to have gone on for years had come to a close, and every dojo in Hong Kong, except for Miyagi-Do, was now extinct. And the head FBI officer that was working with the dojos all along and blew my cover, well, I got him a first-class ticket to prison where he was to be put on soap-dropping duty every day for the rest of his life.
You can't! I won't last a day in there!
That's the plan.
And as for me, well, I thought it might be a good idea to submit my internship application to the ICA, who were apparently looking for potential candidates for their summer break assassin cloning program. I thought my codename could be Asian 47. Had a bit of a ring to it. But first I had a few ladies that had been patiently waiting for me to finish the entire game's story so I could take them all out on a hot date.
You do this for fun.
Yes.
Well, what else do you do for fun?
Are you coming on to me?
Yeah. Is that okay?
Yes, it's fine. I like it. Wait, let me show you something.
Really?
I've been thinking about this for a while.
Let's do it.
Wait! Over here!
So, where do you want to go?
I don't care. Tell me, Wei. Have you ever had sex in a car? Faster! Faster!